Hello out there. Today's guest, we're talking with Sari Shryack in Austin, Texas, who is a talented daily painter um, working in bright colors with a variety of different subjects. So I'm going to invite her. Oh, look, she's already got it. So we're going to talk, and she'll show us around her studio, I believe. Um, oh, cancel. Hey there. Hey, Sari, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hi there.
All right. Oh,
Thanks for
Oh, did Siri go off?
yes. Yeah, I don't ever talk to Siri
I have to
either.
disable it in all of my devices.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how do I mute that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do
Okay.
that. That's okay. Maybe I can.
No worries.
Okay, sorry.
Happens a lot, actually.
No problem.
No problem. Yeah. Well, I'll just avoid saying your name, and we'll be okay. Thanks so much for coming on to chat today. I've been a fan of your work for a while, and have watched and kind of watched your career develop a little bit, and you are doing so many different things. But I guess, first and foremost, why don't, since this is a studio tour, would you mind kind of just showing us around your space? I can see a color wheel in the background and some work.
Oh yeah, let's go. Okay, so obviously I have a skylight. I'm battling light with me right now, but let me see if I can turn you around and show you kind of from the entrance. So yeah, it's in my backyard.
Oh, awesome.
Backyard studio we had built. So we moved in last year around this time, and then we had this little guy built in August.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's 12 by 12. It's nice because I can paint at home, but I have just enough distance from the kids that I have some space here. I'll show you from the outside a little bit. But yeah, it's 12 by 12. It's a little bit busy in here now. I just ordered a bunch of canvases, so I have this wall is a little bit taken over. But if you come in, you have my skylight up here, and then the front has a lot of nice natural light. So this is really, really kind of the star of the show. It's in Texas, so we have an air conditioner.
That looks familiar, yeah.
Yes. This is my front desk. I do a lot of filming here just because the light is really nice. It's one of these good old IKEA tables. It's nothing too glamorous, but it has really good light, and it's white, so it's a good surface. This is my setup right now just because this morning I did a live. And so this is where my paint is at the moment, but I actually have several places I sort of sit and paint. But here's my Stay Wet palette. I paint mostly in acrylics. So I have this, that way I don't waste very much paint. That's kind of the downside of acrylics, obviously, is that it can be pretty wasteful.
They dry fast, yep.
Yes, exactly. And here's my bucket. I've had a lot of this stuff since college. A bunch of my brushes, they need to be cleaned out and stuff. But this is my setup. It's actually, this is where I put my iPad whenever I'm filming towards me. But I do have this guy for when I'm filming overhead. So it's a little bit of a hodgepodge of some stuff that I actually bought and some stuff that I'm sort of just figuring out how to make work.
Can I stop you for a second? And for my audience who's not as familiar with you, I know you do some live painting and other kind of like live and recorded video stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about, are you on Twitch?
No, I do most of my stuff through either TikTok or Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel, but going live on here is great. Instagram has done a really good job kind of taking in all the newer features from different apps and putting it on Instagram. So I'm able to sort of keep my large audience kind of focused that way. But yeah, I do lives on TikTok and Instagram. Those are kind of my two favorite apps. And it's a really good complement to kind of the more like static part of Instagram where you just sort of post something and let it live. But yeah, the lives are great because it's really interactive. I can answer questions with my audience and sort of have a more direct dialogue. And then also a little fact, if you go live, it boosts your the content in the algorithm. So it's a good thing to sort of keep in rotation as a content creator.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool. So do you ever do like a split screen thing? Do you know how to do that?
No, I would love to figure that out. I thought about doing that for YouTube of really trying to get like a little bit more of a cinematic thing. That's kind of the downside of doing lives is that you're a bit limited in how you can arrange things.
Right.
But I would love to do that. I think it'd be really fun to do, like to be able to talk to the camera, sort of like a 2021 Bob Ross thing where I can talk and show the painting. but I'm not that tech savvy. But if anyone ever wants to reach out and show me how to do it, I'm all ears.
Cool. Let's see. Oh, so speaking of doing live painting, I saw like I picked like something from your Instagram feed to put up on the stories a few minutes ago, and it looked like that was from something you did with David Long.
Oh yeah,
You guys
yeah.
do like a collaborative live paint?
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel, and he calls it his paint cast, and it's an amazing idea. So basically, he does a split screen with he paints alongside of another artist, and he allows the other artist being featured to pick the subject. So he's done like still life and all kinds of stuff. But
wow.
yeah, we just painted. I had just come back from Big Bend, and so
Mhm.
it was the Santa Elena Canyon, and we
Yep.
just painted and talked art, and it was really fun because you could kind of talk shop and get a little bit nerdy with like paint and stuff. But yeah, isn't that a cool idea?
Yeah, that's really cool. I'll have to check out that whole thing if I can somewhere. It's on YouTube, you said.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's interviewed a ton of really
Cool.
really awesome artists. So yeah.
Awesome. I've seen his work come up on Instagram frequently over the years too, and really like a lot of what he does.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So all right, let's jump around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned also that your studio being in the backyard has enough space or separation from the kids.
Yes.
You have a pretty new second kid, right?
Yeah. Oh, my daughter is, I guess, not quite 8 months old, some change, but yeah, we had her in August. So that was kind of the impetus for getting the studio built. Is the extra bedroom was going to be her room, so I needed to build something. But yeah, two kids.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I love them. They're awesome.
I know you've talked a little bit before about like, I guess like how being a mother and an artist like work together a little bit. How has that changed, I guess, since having your daughter?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes things a little bit spicier. I mean, it's I don't know. My firstborn he's 5. He's almost 6. So there's enough of an age gap there that he's kind of just now becoming independent. So I feel like if I had them closer together, I probably would have a different answer for you. But yeah, it's just a reset. I've had to step back a little bit with some of my goals and things like that. But they're only young so long, and I've always really wanted to be a mother. So being able to balance the two, the way I always think of it is like, you're going to have problems in life, and trying to navigate two of my biggest loves. Like if that's my problem, then that's a good problem to have. So
that's a really nice way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not to say that it's not all easy. And most days that my hair isn't a bun, and I'm showered in 3 days, and it's not cute, but but I enjoy it, and they make me really happy, and they kind of pull me back if I'm kind of getting in my head with my art and really, just having a hard time connecting. They sort of bring me back, and then vice versa. If I'm having kind of a tough time with them, just everyone's at the end of their rope, I just come out in the studio and sort of recharge. So it's a good balance. I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely relate to that. I have a 5-year-old also.
Oh yeah. Oh, awesome.
And a 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, sweet.
Cool. Well, so you've got your Houston Magnolia pieces in Rainbow Show. And when I was putting this together, there it is in the background. When I was putting this show together, I thought about you just because you have always struck me as like a rainbow painter.
Oh yeah, full chroma.
Yeah. Would you mind giving us kind of like a close-up view of the painting back there? And
let's see, flip you around again. There we go. Yeah, so let's see, I think it's 24 by 30. So here we are.
That's beautiful.
And thank you. Yes, it's acrylic. It was when I was in Houston. We were walking around, I think looking for a restaurant, and I saw this big magnolia, and what I loved about it were the little seeds. I'm so ignorant when it comes to that, but they were sitting inside the leaf, and it was just really beautiful. And I remember there being like this almost opalescent quality to it. And I had been doing some botanicals, and so anyways, it was kind of like love at first sight. And then I pulled it into the studio, and I think I got it almost as beautiful as it was in real life. So that's always like the threshold, right? To redeem that.
You really got the light and the contrast on the leaves are really nice.
Yeah. This was a really fun one to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of interest in here. And what I love about it is when you get up really close to it, and this is always the hard part that doesn't translate on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
but I love that it really does kind of fall apart on you. Like you
Right.
don't quite know what you're looking at. That's why I wish I had, there was a more of an opportunity for artists to put their stuff out in person. And, social media is kind of dominant right now, but if you can go see art in real life, a lot of times you'll find that artists, even the ones that do well on Instagram, there's
Mm-hmm.
something else about their work that kind of does more in person.
Oh, definitely. I've been running this, I guess it was an Instagram, and then now it's an online art gallery. And I've only ever heard people talk about when they receive a work of art in person that they ordered online, how much better in person it is than
Yes.
they expected.
Night and day. Yeah.
Same experience buying art online too, It's...
Oh, totally. Yes. Definitely important to, if you can, sorry, I'm flipping you guys around.
Oh, that's okay.
If you can, see art in person and look at art in person and touch art in person, it's definitely a payoff. I mean, that's for certain, I can say that about my work, but I know that when I look at other people's work, that always happens. The scale is so much different, and, the texture is so much different, and just looking at art on a screen, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I mean, you can definitely get an impression, but it's not the same as being in a physical space with it and being able to spend some time looking at it a different angle.
Right.
All that.
Yeah. I have a question for you, if I can ask.
Yeah.
I know you're doing the show now and online. Are you planning on maybe post-pandemic doing more like in-person type shows or in-person events?
Absolutely. I really hope so. I think I have like some ideas for some initial events, possibly as early as this summer, but not to the scale of like a full art show or anything. And then following that, I'll probably do some pop-ups.
Okay, cool.
And then, ultimately, I'd like to really have a full gallery space, but I don't know where or when that's going to happen.
Yeah, because you're in Austin, right? Or right outside of Austin?
No, I'm in Dallas.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought Austin.
Gotcha. I lived in Austin for a long time, so
okay. Gotcha.
Apparently that connection stays with you.
Yeah, once an Austinite, always an Austinite.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I don't remember what we were talking about.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, you asked me a question about events, and yes, I hope so. I hope to do in-person events in the not too distant future.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Oh, I was going to ask you a little bit about your process and kind of where you start. I guess this is a bunch of questions at once. Kind of where do you start, and how does your paintings? How do your paintings develop, and then is it different for kind of like your daily painting practice versus a larger piece?
Yes. So to answer the latter part first, I feel like in my mind, I sort of have two bodies of work. On one hand, I sort of, and one's not less or one's not better. There's not really a hierarchy. But on one hand,
sure.
I have content that sort of feeds the beast of Instagram. I have some kind of daily content. And a lot of times I play with like smaller ideas. Like if I'm curious about making a bigger series, I won't figure it out on a big canvas first. I'll see how I like it on a smaller wood panel. So if you can see in my studio, I have a bunch of these already primed and ready to go. I just do that because it's just easier, and then I can grab one. And with kids, like it's just a matter of I only have an hour in the studio. So, anyways, but I have those, my little wood panels, and I'll try out ideas on that. Sometimes they are just kind of silly and they're one-off, and it's a conversation with my audience, and it's kind of more for fun. And then I have my on this side of the studio, kind of my bigger canvases and stuff, and those are more bodies of work that are a little bit more thought out, and they have a purpose, and I'm seeing like they're for a show, or I have some kind of an end goal that's a little bit bigger than just content on Instagram. And how I come to those is totally different. So the little wood panels, it'll be something like I'll go on my morning walk or run, and I just see something, I snap a picture, or I think of a meme, or really anything. Anything goes. The threshold is low. And I'll sit and paint it. And I'm a quick painter, so sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours, but it's always like within a day. And then I have my larger work, which will take a month or a couple months to work out. And there's usually a lot more thought process. A lot of times I'm doing reading with it, or I'm looking at other artists, or it's, the real deal, the real like intellectual heavy lifting that comes with being a painter. And so the inspiration for those, a lot of times if I have an idea that works out on a small wood panel and I'm still interested, then I'll start to do sketches and studies. Like you can see one of my studies right here. It's the ring pops.
Is that the ring pop? And then you're working on the one? Yeah.
And over here it's massive. Again, I'll just pan over to it. But there's two of them right there. But it's 40
awesome.
60s, I think so. So it's huge. And as far as that, it's just a lot more like, that takes a few hours every day for about a month, and then I have, that body of work. So for me, it's definitely two separate bodies of work in my mind anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see that. The ring pops, and like the popsicles, and were those things like daily paints to begin with?
Yes, exactly. So like the popsicle one for sure was. I remember Knox was like maybe 3, and we were outside playing with popsicles, and it just reminded me of how much I had him growing up, and it sort of formally ticks all the boxes for me. It's like translucent, it's colorful, it just kind of fits into what I'm doing. The light catches it in an interesting way. And so I painted a couple times. I painted it on a small wood panel, and then I was like, hey, there's really something here. I'm really interested in this. And then I realized that I had like kind of a more personal kind of connection to them. And so I started painting them larger, and I really like how it functions as a large piece, a larger than life piece. And it kind of took off. And I think that the pop ice was kind of the impetus for like these, like the teenage girl series. I wish I was displaying them better. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
But it's that same sort of translucent, and like, what do we do if we take easily recognizable consumer objects and sort of tease them out into their more basic forms and elements, and arrange them and do stuff with negative space. So that's kind of what I'm playing with there. But you can see how one thing kind of will feed the other. Kind of it's a good relationship of two different bodies of work, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. It's almost like, your daily paint is kind of like your sketchbook.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah, it's a sketchbook that I can sell, and that helps me buy paint. So it's
exactly.
very beneficial. Yeah, sketchbook.
Cool. Fantastic. So when you start, I guess either, you can take either path, right? With this, when you start your work, you start with like a brightly primed panel, or do you always work on panel?
For my smaller ones, I work on panel just because it's easier to ship. But my bigger ones are usually on canvas or just,
Yeah. And then you just start like sketching, or do you just start in with the paint, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I also prime them with a brighter color. I usually use like a hot pink, as you can see, kind of like with that one. I have a few sort of starting over there, or like a lime green. And then I do my drawing, which is just, because they're larger, it's a little bit hard. I usually freehand everything. I don't grid. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just lazy that way.
The one behind you looked like they were actually in kind of the drawing phase, right?
Yes. So that big one, if it's big enough, I'll grid it out a little bit to give myself kind of it, just so I'm not overdrawing, several times. It's just easier. So I'll start those in a drawing, and sometimes I'll start a bunch at once. I do this kind of, so I have the Big Ben series and a couple teenage girl still lifes that I'm starting at the same time. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But I'll just, because I have this, my small wood panels that I have to keep up with content, I sort of will do that, and then whatever time I have left, I sort of put into that, because I only really paint maybe 3 or 4 hours a day just with kids. I mean, that's all I have. And so it's just, I'll kind of pivot between the two until I start getting some steam. And honestly, whichever ones I want to work out, like the ones that are more fun in my mind, will get finished first, and then I'll have to bring up the rear at some point. But yeah, and then I do a blocking in phase. I take Liquitex acrylic, the basic series, so the less high quality paints, because they're a little bit more like plasticky, so they go on a little bit smoother. I do my base layer with that, so it's just the general values and mapping and stuff like that, and I keep it really informal, no detail. And then I'll go back with my nice like golden paints and really start to slowly bring out more and more information. And as I work on a painting, it'll start to kind of become realer, like more realistic looking as I'm working through it, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I always think about painting in layers like that with acrylics, but I never thought about doing like different quality acrylics to achieve, you know, different results for different parts of it. That's cool.
Yeah, well, it's two. One, it's because it's more plasticky, so it's smoother, but then also because I painted on such a budget for such a long time. You know, my business only really became like truly profitable in the last 2.5 or so years, and this year my husband actually was able to step away from his job to help me full time, so it's really picked up recently. But for the first 2.5, 3 years, it was just enough to sort of pay for itself.
Yeah.
And so all of my techniques kind of come from really working on a budget. And so the acrylics, the low grade ones are only like $10 a tube. You can buy them like on sale. And so because, you know, the canvas is really, it'll like soak up your paint. And so I just do my first layer with the really cheap stuff, and the value is close enough. So I'm not trying to have to go for like opacity. I'm just going for refinement of color and value. And then I can use the, you know, higher end stuff, a little bit more sparing. I don't have to do that as much anymore, but it's, you know, old tricks die hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then, yeah, it's like you found something like a technique on accident that that's kind of unique to you, probably.
Yeah, it works.
Cool, Sari. So I was also wanting to ask you about your teaching and how you got started with that, or what, if there's anything about that you'd like to tell us, or, yeah, I don't know. What have you learned from teaching? Maybe is a good question.
So much I've learned from teaching. I had an excellent college painting professor. So I went to school for, it was just a liberal arts university. So I took like all kinds of classes, but I majored in graphic design and fine arts. And my painting professor was a rock star. He was so generous with his time and with his approach to painting, and everyone can paint. And on top of that, he was like showing in Europe. He was a very successful painter. And so I just admired him and looked up to him so much. And so when I got out, I started doing my own thing, and people started asking me questions. It was very natural for me to just like give and share and all that. But one thing, I don't know if you've kind of encountered this, but the art world can be a little bit like weird with like everyone, you know, like with secrets and like teaching, like everyone can be a little bit, I don't know. Sure. There's like a lot of smoke and mirrors in the art world.
Envy for sure.
Yeah, it's just, and it's so, and the way I became familiar with painting, it was so generous, and, you know, his way of teaching was so open and everyone is welcome, that it kind of just struck me as like, oh, well, I need to clear this up. Like, I need to help out as much as I can, because, you know, it's the stuff that I was being taught, like, it's not, I don't know how to, it's not super proprietary. It's just basic information, right? So I started teaching sort of in my comment sections or in my direct messages, sort of just like, yeah, I'll help you out. This is what I do. Let me share what I know. Cool. And then it became very exhausting. And I was like, okay, I've got to figure this out. And so I started teaching workshops in person, and I loved it. I absolutely loved, you know, sharing and people telling me their story. And, you know, everyone has a story. I know that's so like cliche, but, you know, and art is such a wonderful way to sort of process everything you're going through and share with the world. And it just felt really good, basically. And so then the lockdown happened, and I was no longer, I had to cancel some in-person workshops. And I sort of just seized on the moment. I said, this is a really good time to finally get, you know, I've honed my craft as a teacher a little bit. And so I reached out to a video editor, and he and I worked together. We were partners on Not Sorry Art School. And basically it's a online art school. It's not just a workshop, because it's really, really big. And it's all of the basics that I learned in those painting classes, like synthesized down into Not Sorry Art School. So the basic one, like the intro course, is like 5.5 hours of like all the basics, like how to draw with paint, how to map value, color, saturation, all the basic terms and ideas you need to know to be able to paint realistically. And yeah, we've just been adding on. So we were in Big Bend, and we filmed a plein air segment. So now people know how to paint, and now they're learning how to plein air paint. So I'm showing all the tips and tricks and everything like that with people who want to learn how to paint. So it's really fun. I love it.
Cool. Yeah, plein air. angle I can see being really valuable to people who have not done it before, because there's so much that you don't think about. You're like, oh, okay, I'll go outside and paint, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Then you get eaten by bugs, and your paint dries in 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. The wind is blowing around. You've got,
Oh my gosh. Yes, totally.
that's a totally different kind of thing than studio painting.
Yeah, totally. So it's been really fun, and I guess to get back to like what I learned about it, I've had to hone my craft to be more accountable, and I've learned that I think everyone's an artist. You just have to put in the work. So
Yeah, well, fantastic. We're coming up on our time here, I guess, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with everybody before we say adieu?
Yeah. Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Yeah. I mean, I guess thanks for watching, and thanks to you for having this platform. I love your podcast. I love the work you feature. I found so many amazing artists, and I really am glad for what you do, because I feel like sometimes Western artists and like plein air painting and stuff can get a little bit pushed outside of the more academic type gallery setting of art, which is really unfortunate. And so I think what you do is really important, because you're sort of pulling all that rich history
Thank you.
into the forefront. So I appreciate what you do.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot, like what you're saying. I feel like there's a lot of artists who are not necessarily represented in more like kind of like the contemporary art space that fit both like the Western perspective and kind of like the fine art world in a important way. And so that's exactly what I'm trying to do. It's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you.
Adding that.
Cool.
All right. Well, Sari dot studio is your website.
Yes.
And y'all all know where to find her on Instagram at
Yes.
Sari Art. And thank you so much for talking today, Sari. And I'm excited to show your Magnolia painting in rainbows and have you work with Western Gallery a little bit. And best of luck to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on here.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.